Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, in this video, we'll be giving you guys our prediction for the 2024 presidential election. And this is different than our prior videos because, of course, now Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee. So it is Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump.
Yeah, we've had a recent switch on the Democrat side. We are still waiting for who will complete the ticket on the Harris side, but we're gonna launch into our prediction now. So we'll start with some states that are less competitive, but we haven't filled in yet. I think we could probably go straight to some likely Democratic states in New Mexico, New Hampshire, and Maine.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So these states are, I mean, they're pretty blue. They all voted for Biden by decent margins. New Mexico was Biden plus 10, New Hampshire Biden plus 7, and Maine Biden plus 9. Now, these were some of the states that there was lots of speculation, or not really even speculation, uh, that Biden was. And yeah, sorry, I should rephrase this. Okay, uh, it was seen in these states that Biden was slipping. Um, yeah, in a matchup with Trump. Like a lot of these states were getting lighter shades of blue or even turning red in some polling. I believe a poll showed Trump up against Biden by 2. But now with Harris in the race, especially in New Hampshire and Maine, we've seen somewhat of a reversal. I think 3 New Hampshire polls have come up since Harris have swapped out, all of which show her above 5. I think one had her up 5, one had her up 6, and one had her up 7. All really solid margins. And there was another poll that put her up 9 in Maine on par with Biden. Like down with that, that just kind of shows me that in these traditionally blue states, that Harris is kind of coming back. And I definitely think, yeah, like at least they should be in this likely column here. She's definitely favored.
Yeah, we'll go to some likely Republican states. Texas, I think, is going to be likely. There was some speculation on the Dem side that they could get this within lean at this cycle finally, but yeah, I think it's just not going to happen this time with a lot of factors, most notably just that the environment is just worse for Dems compared to 2020 when they already could not get there. And Florida is going to be joining this column, traditionally a swing state, but Republicans have veered it to the right. It's probably closer to safe than lean even at this point. So likely right there for Florida.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree
Yeah.
with the characterizations here. Um, I will say, yeah, like Florida 100% I think is going to be between 5 and 10 points in that high single digits area. Yeah, Florida is no doubt has been trending to the right. Trump won by 3 points in 2020. I definitely think he'll win by more. And like we've had one poll come out in the state between Harris and Trump. It was Trump plus 7, so it's not that great. Uh, but yeah, like that's about where I expect it to be. So it adds up to me. In Texas, meanwhile, we've gotten no new recent polling between Harris and Trump, I believe. So in terms of where that stands, I'm not really sure. Um, I definitely think we should leave it in likely for now until we get further data. But yeah, Texas is a state that's been trending to the left. Trump only won it by plus 6. Been a historically solid Republican state, so that was kind of a weak performance in 2020. So yeah, like I could see it swing to the left. I could see it in plus 5. There's a chance it even dips in a plus 4 with this new found momentum on the Democratic side. But until we get further data, I think likely Trump is the fair characterization. Either way, I think he's definitely favored in the state of Texas.
Yeah. I think there's some more seats that are not really that competitive. But why don't we stop by Nebraska second real quick?
Oh yeah, like Nebraska second. This one I'm not too sure where it's going to land. Uh, But like, yeah, Nebraska does it by and Maine do it by do their distribute their electoral votes by district. The second district is a pretty swingy district, but Biden won it by about 6 points. It's pretty decent, and it's generally been a left trending district too. Um, you know, I have no doubt that there was slippage. Like obviously when Biden was starting to his campaign started to collapse, I think there was definitely slippage in an area, such a swingy area such as this. Again, we don't have a lot of data. I mean, I guess as a default, we could just leave it likely blue here, but it could be lean blue right now. We don't really know. We haven't this is like a very specific district. We don't get a lot of data, but this district could be very important because an example, like if all the states that went blue that are traditionally blue go blue, like all the likely states go blue, and Harris wins the Rust Belt, this tiny district would give her enough to win the whole thing at 270. So this is a very key district. This one electoral vote can count for a lot. But yeah, I don't know. Lean or likely, I'm kind of in between the two. I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll just put on lean for now because I'm
Yeah,
hesitant to put it that far with such little data. There was one poll in
yeah,
July,
yeah,
the most recent July poll that in here that had them even, but it was Biden versus Trump. Don't really know where Harris stands with the specific Omaha demographic. It's just too small to know. So lean for now. We'll
yeah.
check
That's
it
fair.
out later.
100%.
Yeah, and then we'll stop by a few more states that are probably going Democrat, but could be closer. We've seen Minnesota and Virginia. I think Minnesota's actually might actually be to the left of Virginia. Don't really know. Might be a shocking move here to say that, but going to Minnesota, I there was recent polling that showed Harris just doing very well in Minnesota, and this is right after she got in the race, and it's not looking that good for Trump here. I don't know if the newfound momentum in the progressive circle just helps here in Minnesota because of how bad Biden was doing before, where people were thinking this is actually going to be a competitive state. But nowadays, I happen to think this is lean or likely. But Virginia, I would say, is more lean actually.
Okay. Um, I feel like this is a general trend that I mentioned before. I think states that were bluer that were bluer in like a year like 2020, we're seeing them become much bluer again with Harris as opposed to how they were in the polling when it was Biden versus Trump in the 2024 polling. That we're seeing them kind of come back. Um, that leads me to personally, I actually think Minnesota and Virginia actually might just both be unlikely now by the way things are trending. The Minnesota polls were definitely really strong. Like Fox putting Harris up 6 and Survey USA putting her up 10, which is a lot. But like a reputable pollster putting her up that much, like makes me think like, okay, yeah, she's definitely gonna win by at least 5. Um, yeah, like that's pretty good margins. I'm pretty confident that Minnesota is going to be blue. Virginia, yeah, I get it. Like it went red in 2021, which is like a year where Republicans were doing really well. I think we haven't gotten a lot of polling uh after Biden dropped out in Virginia. Um,
Yeah.
but even before that, I think Harris was up like +4 in like a New York Times poll there. So that was pretty decent. And I imagine she might even be higher there now if they go back and repoll. So like that leads me to believe that like I think Virginia's a pretty blue state. It voted for Biden by 10. I personally think it'll start coming back, and I think we'll I assume we'll see this in the later Virginia polling. That I think I would put this in likely personally. Uh, at least as of right
Yeah,
now. I want to
probably a
see
little
evidence.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see more evidence. I think these polls are just too far behind. We saw the Kamala momentum that's been happening the last week. Really, I mean, hard to believe that Harris, wasn't even the nominee 2 weeks ago. But this is what it is as it stands.
Hmm.
Probably, Harris is doing better than what these polls say. Yeah, it's looking but I think Kamala regained a lot of ground. If Biden was still in the race today, this state would get even closer. So that's all I have to say on that. And we'll move on to North Carolina, which is, gonna still stay in Trump's column for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, her only pick that might have for vice president that might have moved North Carolina a little more. The governor Roy Cooper has dropped out of consideration for VP. Trump leads the only new poll that's come out since the Harris takeover, and he's probably just going to improve even on 2020 margins here. So probably pretty fine to put this in lean.
Yeah.
And then this really just comes down to the final 6 states that we always talk about here and that are going to decide the election.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree with the North Carolina characterization. This is a state that's just been kind of out of reach for Democrats. Trump won it by like one or two. Yeah, like it's kind of just been a tease for Democrats ever since 2008. And I think, yeah, you're right. With Roy Cooper dropping out of consideration, it's pretty hard to see Kamala winning here. But yeah, lean red's a good characterization. Yeah, for these, yeah, these last six are definitely going to be all really, really close now. These are definitely going to be the core kind of six swing states here for this election. I think we should start with Nevada here because I think that's uh the most partisan, I guess, as right now of those states in terms of where they're going to go.
Nevada.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Nevada. I mean, it's actually interesting. We had that one recent poll. Now, this one morning consult poll is it's kind of sketchy because of how it did the work. First of all, it's a very low sample size, which is why morning consult is just not the best pollster. It's all over the place sometimes. It is what it is. But we saw how the state results had, Harris up 11 in Michigan, down 4 in Pennsylvania, all over the place, but has her up to in Nevada and Arizona for what it's worth. And but that's the only poll post Harris takeover. So we really don't have enough data in the state of Nevada, but vibes, intuition, and everything else still has Trump up for me and probably for you too. I don't think it's by that much, but it's yeah, like you said, probably the most partisan out of the remaining states. And maybe Michigan stands a chance here, but
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Lean Republican.
I
Yeah.
I would, yeah, I would say I actually might even put this in tilt. Why? It's definitely like of the remaining states of 2020, it was pretty blue relative to them, I would say. It went for Biden by two. Um, so maybe if my theory is correct that these bluer states are swinging back toward Harris, maybe that goes for Nevada too. We won't know until we get more data. But I will note Nevada is a state where we've seen at least a light red Republican trend. In 2022, they flipped the governor's race, for example. So, and even in 2020, relative to 2016, the state didn't really move, even though the country generally moved to the left. So, I think Nevada is a state where there is at least a light red trend. So that leads me to believe that yes, like despite the Harris momentum here, I think it is gonna go to Donald Trump. I don't know by a lean or like tilt margin, but yeah, I think he's definitely favored in the state.
Yeah. I guess we can go to Michigan next. I think I
Yeah, that's
feel
fair.
like that's probably moving to Harris. I think we probably put Michigan in the Trump column, right, against Biden. Not actually
Yeah,
sure,
we
but
did.
yeah, Biden was doing really bad back then. Now, I think Harris has recaptured the state of Michigan right now. It's probably the safest for her out of the remaining swing states. There is a lot of conflicting polling. I will say that the polling is very interesting, and Emerson has Trump up. Fox has it tied, and the remaining pollsters are sketchy. But nowadays I start to feel as though Harris is gonna win Michigan. I think maybe the data doesn't show it immediately, but just thinking about the trends right now, thinking about how Harris is getting momentum in a lot of polls, I mean, a lot of the enthusiasm is questionable. We don't really know because there's a huge response bias for Democrats right now in the polls. Um, it's everywhere with Harris getting a lot of enthusiasm now. Does that translate to, a lot of enthusiasm at the polls? Maybe. Does it translate to, having pollsters weigh Democrats weirdly? I don't know. Most of us are just sort of guessing here. But with the vibes, what's going on, we're gonna update this once we get more data and things like that. But I think Harris is gonna win the state by probably a tilt here. Just for now.
Yeah,
Just for now.
I would definitely put it there. I mean, again, Democrats had a very solid performance in 2022. In a year that was supposed to be a red wave, there was definitely a blue wave in Michigan in 2022. So I
Yeah.
that just solidifies for me this is the bluest of those three mid Rust Belt states. And yes, I definitely think Harris is the slight favorite in Michigan right now. Um, And yeah, like even in that polling there, like if you just look at the trends from like when they polled before to after, like it's definitely trending in her favor. So yeah, I definitely think she has a good shot of winning Michigan, and she's slightly favored right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're gonna see though. There's a lot of weird things. Like, for example, this D+11 poll, it's definitely
Yeah,
not
that's
correct.
definitely
So,
bizarre.
yeah, it's just not right. And we're definitely gonna look at this as things go on because, a lot of polls are gonna come out within the next few weeks, going into Labor Day. We're going to look at how protests might shape up, like when the school year starts, how UMich is gonna start protests, probably a lot of Arab Americans in Michigan as well will picking Josh Shapiro impact that we don't really know. So, and we'll talk about that when we go to Pennsylvania. But that's it for Michigan for now. Probably Harris. Gotta see more.
Uh,
Um,
Personally, I think we go to Arizona next.
yeah,
I
Arizona is between Arizona and Georgia. Okay, we'll go to Arizona. Arizona is interesting. We got all these polls pre-dropout. We have a few new polls. It's interesting. I think Harris actually does not have that much appeal in Arizona. I think compared to a lot of the other swing states, Arizona is just along with Nevada is going to be Harris's weak part of the country. I think she has more appeal with blacks, especially black women in Georgia, for example, has some new momentum in Pennsylvania, Michigan with a potential Josh Shapiro pick. You know what I'm saying? But Arizona, I still think that's in Trump's column.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go tilt here. If she picked Mark Kelly, I think this would probably tilt D, maybe even lean D, but it looks like it's gonna be Josh Shapiro.
I mean, in the data that's released since after, we did get a poll from Emerson, and it put Trump up pretty decently, I believe. What
Yeah,
was it, like five?
a five,
Yeah, like
six
five or
actually,
six. Yeah,
with the
like
lean
five or
Arizona.
six. So like that, I found that pretty interesting. And public policy polling, like that's decent in some years, putting Trump up too. I mean, yeah, like I think Arizona will definitely be a close state. I think Mark Kelly, like if Harris picked him as her VP, you're right. I think it would be over the top for her. But yeah, I just like I don't know. I don't think it looks like enough as of right now, at least, to flip the state. I mean to keep the state rather for Harris. But yeah, it looks like Trump will be able to flip Arizona at least uh with the data we have now.
Yeah, not much seems probably likely. I think Georgia, right? I mean,
Actually, I would
where would
I
you
would
go?
I would I would actually say PA is the next closest here. Is the next
I'm gonna
um
disagree with you,
least
but we
close,
can we
I guess.
can we can
I mean,
we
we
can
could
go
talk
to
about
we can
I
go
mean,
there.
wherever you want. I mean, where are you
Let's
now?
just
Are you
go for it. I'm in PA, so
you're
let's
PA?
just
Okay,
go. Let's
okay.
just roll with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, I will say it is looking incredibly likely that Harris picks Josh Shapiro, the current governor, as her VP. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but the betting markets are completely lopsided toward him. Her first rally with her VP, who she's going to pick within the week, is in Philadelphia. So that kind of points to me that okay, it's kind of shaping up to potentially be him. But even without that, like I would say she's doing like pretty decently. Like I mean, in the polling, the Fox News, like the reputable pollsters here, Fox News having that even. I guess the Wikipedia doesn't really show the Susquehanna poll, which is a Pennsylvania state pollster that also came out with a poll, that had her up four. Like I mean that's pretty decent to me. I actually think I would even say I think with the momentum she has now, she might even be favored for the state. And I think Josh Shapiro would just assuming she picks the most likely person to be her running mate, that just helps her even more. Josh Shapiro has a 61% approval in the state of Pennsylvania. He won by 15 points in a matchup against Trump. In the Fox News poll that tested Shapiro versus Trump, he was up 10. So like I think personally right now PA is tilt blue, and if she actually goes through with picking Josh Shapiro as a running mate, I think it could even go to lean. Like I think that she could lock down Pennsylvania with that type of selection. What do you think?
I'm a little more skeptical. I don't think VP picks matter that much, to be honest. I mean, Josh Shapiro is a unique one because of how favored he's one of the most favored governors. on the Democratic side. Now, it is weird though, because there's also this whole factor with how Josh Shapiro, some progressives don't like him. He's very, very pro-Israel, being Jewish, and that could alienate progressives elsewhere. But yes, he is definitely going to boost Harris in Pennsylvania. Would be definitely her best pick. I think the best pick for the country too, should she win. I think he has good experience as well as governor of an important state. Um, and I could see it being tilt blue with the momentum right now. So I'll give it to Harris for now, giving her the benefit of the doubt with how the polls are shifting, how the vibes seem to be moving in her direction, how she is probably gonna go for Shapiro here. And that does, make me think that it's tilt blue, but I would actually only
Also,
go tilt blue. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Also, wait, I just want to point out, can you go to the back to the PA polls for a second? If
Yeah,
you
sure, I
scroll
can go
down
there.
to the RFK, like the RFK. Yeah, like I was looking at those earlier too. Like I mean, at least for the Fox one, it actually,
Susquehanna is here actually, just
yeah,
so you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, so like those were those were the two I was talking about. Like that Fox poll, like something I've noticed that's interesting with polling that I've seen with Harris is that RFK has at least in the polls I've seen it started to do worse after the Biden dropout. And I suspect at least a lot of his voters, a good chunk of his voters are moving to Harris now that the choice isn't between Biden and Trump. So I think that Kennedy is starting to draw more Trump voters than he is Harris voters. That's just a theory for now. I'm sure we'll see it solidify more as more polls come out. But like that's at least what I've seen. So like with this PA poll, for example, the Fox poll goes from an even in a head-to-head to Harris favored with Kennedy in the race. So I just found that interesting. So I'm like, okay, I mean, maybe she could potentially win the state. And RFK is on the ballot in PA. So I don't know. You never know.
So just to finish my point there, I was thinking that PA is going to be tilt D with Josh Shapiro as the pick, and I think it's actually tilt Republican without him as the pick. I definitely want to go as far as to lean right now. I don't think VP picks matter that much, even though Josh Pierre is an anomaly. But I would actually put Tilt D with Shapiro factored in already. I think he's going to be the pick, and betting markets reflect that. Her rally reflects that. And I was going to actually say that I think Georgia's going to be closer, uh, and an even closer toss-up state than Pennsylvania right now. And okay, let's zoom in on the polls that happened post dropout. So we have really the only really good poll is Emerson here, which has Trump up two, and which they also have Trump up two in Pennsylvania for what it's worth. Um, and with the Shapiro pick, obviously it's different, but I actually think that the momentum in Georgia is going to be more than what people expect for Harris, because if you remember back in 2020, people just really weren't expecting Biden to be able to upset Trump in the state. And I think Harris actually has more of an ability to do that than Biden, even being a black woman. And the fact that Georgia obviously has a significant amount of black voters is going to help her there. I think she's going to do well in Atlanta, going to do well and make this really, really close. I'm still going to put it in Trump's column. I think it's very close, but I was gonna say that Pennsylvania is closer. Obviously, all these states are very close, but Georgia tilt Republican.
Like I'm not even sure because with Georgia here, like I'm comparing like I've been thinking about Georgia for a while, and there's two reputable polls that came out I would note that are like I really good. The Emerson one is one, which is +2. Landmark Communications was also one of the most accurate polls in Georgia, for a while now, and it's one right under the Emerson one, and it puts
Uh,
Trump up only one. So that just seems to think this is a blue trending state. Its suburbs are growing and they've been moving toward Democrats. They voted for Democrats in 2020. They voted for them federally in 2022. And like I definitely could see like Harris just had a rally in Atlanta. She definitely appeals to black voters. I think I definitely think there's a solid possibility she could win the state. You know, honestly, I'm gonna defer to you on this one because I'm not sure where Georgia goes right now. I think personally Georgia and Wisconsin are the two like closest right now for me in terms of like it would be like a coin flip in terms of where I think they'd go. But I think I definitely think she's approaching like keeping like a scenario where she keeps Georgia here because again those trends factored in with the renewed focus on the campaign. Biden was doing so bad in the state. Biden was losing by like 5 in Georgia, and now to see her come back and have it back at almost even is and even winning in one of these polls. Um, is very notable for me. So I mean, I guess I'll defer to you here, but yeah, I definitely think this is a very winnable state for Kamala.
Yeah, yeah, it's close, obviously, as all these states are. I just don't know. I think Trump's doing very well in the percentages. Obviously in these reputable polls, these lines, Trump's minimum at 48%, you know, and he really only has to win a little bit more, in these polls with the undecideds, which I think some of them just are reluctant to vote Trump for obviously a lot of reasons, but are going to come home to him, and it's going to put him over the top. But actually, a little bit though, it's tough to say. Of course, we're gonna finish up with Wisconsin, which is going to decide the presidency here. And the Wisconsin polls have obviously been abysmal, but why don't we break it down?
Yeah, so Wisconsin's polling, I'm always skeptical when I look at Wisconsin's polling. It was really accurate in 2018. Actually, I should go back to 2016 here. They were really bad in 2016. They were really accurate in 2018. They were abysmal in 2020, and they were really good in 2022. Um, Now, noticing that trend there, they were pretty bad in presidential years with
With
Trump.
Trump
So
specifically.
I'm not sure if it changes because I don't know, like, I feel like Trump voters are different than they were before, and the fact that before people more were more reserved about expressing support for Trump. Now I think people are much more open about it. Um, Especially over these last like 4 years under Biden. So maybe like the attitudes change. Like I've seen in some polling, even Republicans are beating Democrats in terms of like how they respond to polls. So maybe like these tiny little like niche changes in polling, maybe that makes these polls more accurate. We can't really know until the election day comes. But what I do know is based on trends, Wisconsin is typically to the right of Michigan and PA, typically of those 3 states. So that just leads me to believe that Trump is still favored in the state. It's a very white state. Even if some of these polls have Kamala up, the Emerson poll, like putting her up 2, for example, and I mean the Fox poll has Trump up 1, and them even with RFK. Um, like yeah, I definitely think the state will be incredibly, incredibly close, but I'm still inclined to think that Trump is ever so slightly favored, like by tilt margin here.
Yeah, by like point one. You guys do have to remember when you're watching these sort of projections that uh this race is going to be decided by tiny, tiny, minute differences and micro decisions of people to go out to the polls and to vote one way or another in a few states, and that's just factual. I do think though that this race is going to be to the right of 2020, and that, if you do look at the 2020 map, this election was decided by very small percentage points in just a few states, really, just 3 states if you're looking at the bare minimum here. And with the national environment going to shift, 3, 4 points to the right, depending on how well Harris and Trump do, I still think it's tough to see these states resisting that much of a trend. However, of course, we do have a lot of momentum, in the last week with Harris. She's gotten a really good news cycle, and she's gonna get probably a few more weeks of a good news cycle, while Trump and Vance have been getting sort of battered in the mainstream media, and they're starting to turn the attention back on him after just hammering Biden forever. So this
Yeah.
is the state of the race. I think this is actually a really good projection, considering we probably think right now that Trump is ahead by, probably 55% chance to win. The betting markets largely agree. You have predicted here that has Harris slightly ahead, barely finally
For the
today
first
breaking
time, I'd
through.
note.
Let me refresh this. What if it changed? See, it might have
Yeah,
changed, right?
ever so
But we also
slightly.
have Poly Market at 54.43. So it's sort of weird to see. Actually, it's funny because if you buy both of them, you're guaranteed to make money unless one of them dies and or drops out. And a few years ago, I was saying it's a scam because there's no way Biden isn't gonna run, but he didn't run. So, maybe I wasn't so wise. However, you know, these betting markets do show, Trump at a tiny bit favor. We have that too. Harris just needs to flip one of these three states to win. Of course, Trump could also flip back Michigan or
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. The VP pick is going to be very important. The DNC is going to happen in 2-3 weeks. So keep your eyes out. We're going to have good news cycles for Harris. It's probably going to help her. We're probably gonna update this once we get the VP picked because that's gonna be very
Hmm.
important. If it's Kelly or Shapiro, it'll be a big difference. If it's Walls, not so much. But we'll see. If it's Pete Buttigieg,
Yeah,
might have to move
that would be pretty
some
bad.
states into the Republican column actually.
But yeah,
So
like I
yeah,
I just want to know here, yeah, like we have a very close map here. 5 tilt states. Like again, a lot of this is just that like we're still waiting. Like we did this video with kind of I would say like maybe a half the data we need right now because it's only been like a handful of days since Kamala Harris has kind of been put in place as the Democratic nominee. It's only like what like it's maybe like 10 or 11 days. So yeah, we still
yeah,
gotta wait for this survey data to kind of come in, see how the race evolves. Right now, Kamala has a lot of momentum. Like obviously she just took the lead in the betting markets today, after Trump's comments in front of like black journalists, like on Harris's race. Like it's getting this campaign has been crazy with the assassination attempt by dropping out. We really don't know what's going to happen going forward. But
yeah.
yeah, right now it's definitely
Yeah,
really
she
close.
has that momentum. I mean, is this a result of just polling? We don't know. Is polling just being weird right now with the whole response bias? We don't know. Is Harris actually picking up real life momentum everywhere this dramatically? We don't know. Why are polls having her up 11 in Michigan? These things are weird. Polls are weird. This is really just, sort of off some rudimentary data, 3, 4 polls in each state, a few national polls here and there that are really certified that we can really rely on. It's tough to say. I mean, Trump's doing, better than I would think at 48%, but Harris is picking up the momentum. She's, flipping the betting averages. As I refresh this right now, she's gained another cent. So we don't know. We're gonna have another projection, like I said, with a VP pick, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, comment down below how many electoral votes you think each party will end up with. Um, yeah, it's gonna be a tight race. So thanks for watching. Share this video with your family and friends, and see ya.
Yeah, guys.